eagerly awaited battle of the fours. Great Britain, champions in Sydney with Sir Steve Redgrave. Today a quartet of familiar faces in a new combination. By contrast, Mike Spracklin's 2003 Canadian World Champions unchanged. But at least, Dan, they're in the final, which is more than we can say for the Germans, who've had also a great deal of misfortune and are not here, or indeed the United States four, who beat both Canada and Great Britain in Lucerne and have been transferred into the 8.
Well, certainly those two crews are not here. These are the crews that are competing for this title, and it's going to be, I think, between Canada, the world champions, the young pretenders, if you like, against the old guard, the experienced Great Britain crew there, stroked by Matthew Pinsent, going for a 4th consecutive gold medal.
And what about the two coaches, Dan? You've got Mike Spracklin, the Englishman, who's rejuvenated Canada, and Jürgen Grobler. There's a lot of desire between those two men to come out as top dog.
Oh, certainly, a lot of competition between the two, and Jürgen Grobler has had the difficult job, really, of trying to bring together this crew. It's a big gamble here, and we've now got 5 minutes to run to see whether that gamble's going to pay off. But Canada, Mike Spracklin's crew with Canada there, they've got great exuberance, great will, and they row extremely well indeed. So they're great fighters, and this is going to be a very intriguing race.
Here are the Australians, Rob Yarling there at 2, son of the Australian coach. And the Australians with good pedigree in this race. They were bronze medalists 4 years ago in Sydney, and of course in the 90s, 92 and 96, the days of the great awesome foursome.
This is not actually the 4 that was going to race. All the top people in the Australian rowing squad have gone into the 8, and this is the 4 really that's the sort of tail enders after the pair and the 8 have been selected. But they have clicked, they're moving very, very well together, and they're very competitive.
Yeah, they're just about vying for 3rd place with their Antipodean rivals New Zealand in the foreground, but it is Great Britain in a boat named Alex Partridge, after the man who was in the boat until just a few weeks ago, until he suffered a collapsed lung, and that's when Ed Code, who won a world title in the 4 in '99 in St Catharines, stepped in, and that's why this really is a new crew. In fact, the man in the bow seat, Dan, Steve Williams, he's just about, well, he is the only man who is part of the original 4.
Well, when the pair came 4th, the British pair came 4th, Pinsent and Cracknell last year, Grobler completely reorganised the British squad and built a new 4 around Cracknell and Pinsent. They are now here being challenged by Canada. Canada coming up now to challenge for the lead. They've just got about 4 or 5 feet to come level. It's about halfway, and this is a race on for these two crews as they start to drop Australia. Italy on the far side, top of the picture there, beginning to challenge for 3rd place with Australia.
Yes, it looks as if it might well develop into a race of 2 halves. Canada here in the foreground, down with this very distinctive style.
Yes, they do lie back a long way. They're not a big crew, so you've really got very much a lighter crew, less experienced against a much heavier crew, much more powerful crew, but they row their boat very well. They make sure that the strokes really count, and they send the boat as far as they can between the strokes. What's really key here is whether under pressure the British crew maintain their length. Last year in the pair they got very short halfway through the race, and they lost speed. Here, if Ed Code, sitting at 3, can make sure that Matthew Pinsent stays long, make sure that the strokes are powerful, then they can win this. But they've got to stay long, they mustn't shorten up.
Canadians, 2 men from BC, 2 men from Saskatoon, and you can see that maybe the Canadians by a whisker have got the advantage now, but there's precious little between the two crews in this 3rd quarter.
As it was in the semi-final, there was nothing to choose in the semi-final performances all the way down the course. There was only a fraction of a second between it at every single point. But they're rowing very well, the Great Britain 4, rowing very well. They've just got the edge on Canada, but Canada moving very, very gently, very, very easily there as they send the boat at the finish of the stroke.
So Great Britain now making sure that they counter the move of the Canadians. Italy moving up into bronze medal position, and they've taken the Australians now. The Australians looking a little flat.
Italy very surprising again, because this is a brand new crew as well. It's the 3rd choice crew for Italy. They are the surprise of the Italian team, because they've moved right up here into contention with the leading crews. Lovely top shot there of Canada, beautifully together, lovely strokes, very good angles, and they have moved now into quite a decisive lead on the Great Britain 4.
500 metres to go. Well, Matthew Pinsent prides himself, doesn't he, Dan, that nobody will beat him in the last quarter.
Everyone, never underestimate Matthew Pinsent. He's only lost once since 1991. 10 gold medals to his credit. Can these boys hold on now to this lead here? Barney Williams in the stroke seat there, holding on there, and they've got about a half a canvas lead, but Pinsent is going to start pushing that rate up now. He's got to move, he's got to keep the length, and he's got to build the power for the last 400 metres.
Australia still in fourth place, Italy still in third, but here the power goes on now. Matthew Pinsent beginning to move, and now it really is bow to bow as they come towards the last 300 metres of the race now. Great Britain surge back into the lead now. They take it by a fraction. Now Canada have to answer the question that Matthew Pinsent, Ed Coe, James Cracknell and Steve Williams are throwing down to them. The British crowd, and there are plenty of them on the far side, they're on their feet now. Everybody's standing up around this regatta course. This is what we expected to happen. This is what we hoped would happen. But now we've really got a race on our hands here. The Canadians, the world champions, can they come back on the British now, who've got less than quarter of a length, still 100 metres to go now. Italy solid in third, Australia burnt off in fourth. It's Matthew Pinsent versus Barney Williams. It's Jürgen Grubler versus Mike Spracklen. Who gets it as they come towards the line? Canada counter-attacking, surge there, but just on the surge, I reckon Great Britain, Dan.
Inches. What an extraordinary comeback there again from Canada. They started to pull back there, having lost the lead. They then came back again. An extraordinary last 250 metres there.
Ignore that time caption. That's completely wrong. There was nowhere near 3 seconds between those two crews. Matthew Pinsent, is it a fourth Olympic gold? Is it a first one for Ed Coe and a second one for James Cracknell and a first Olympic gold for Steve Williams? There they are on the top, Great Britain, bottom Canada. Remember, that's a television line, it's only a guide. They don't know, the crowd don't know, they're applauding the effort.
They know now, they've got it. They've got it.
They do now, because there's the roar, or they will. Yeah, Ed Coe's realised, James Cracknell's realised, they are Olympic champions, and Great Britain have held on to the title that they won in Sydney by a whisker.
Well, Matthew Pinsent had to pull out every tiny bit of his reserves. He certainly earned his money there. That was an extraordinary last attack there. But from Canada and Barney Williams, those last 20 strokes where they were coming back again, what courage.
James Cracknell relieved and proud, Ed Coe underlining his ability to perform on the biggest stage of all, and Steve Williams walking on air. The Canadians, absolute gentlemen in defeat. Barney Williams saying that if he had to lose, then it was a privilege to do so to the world's greatest rower, 4 times Olympic gold medalist, Matthew Pinsent. Undeniably, the race of the regatta so far, Canada and Great Britain locked in battle for 2,000 metres. No quarter asked for, no quarter given, and at the end of it all, just a few centimetres in favour of Great Britain, and the Italians in third, knowing that they've been in one of the great races of all time.